This is Spring, the fiber enthusiast. Welcome to my channel. This is another knitting stitch pattern tutorial. And I'm hoping that you can see this with the color yarn that I chose to knit up this swatch. I could see it very clearly in person, but hopefully this works out and you can see it in the video. So this is called the broken rib stitch pattern. And as you might be able to see, hopefully, there is this line of stitches that go across. It isn't cabled. It is just the way that the stitches are made that causes them to cut across your ribbing. So as you can see, it's got some stretch to it, just like any other ribbing. And if we look at the back side, you can see, give it a chance to focus in, you can see that it has some texture and some stretch. So that is the ribbing. The multiples for this stitch pattern is 7. So whatever number of stitches you would like to cast on for a project, they need to be done in multiples of 7. I chose to do 35 cast on stitches. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to do a little bit of a technique here that causes them to transfer over like that. And the pattern starts off after you've cast on your multiples of 7, however far you want to go with it. Like I say, I just did 35. Row 1, you start right away with causing this transfer of stitches to go at an angle like that. And how that is accomplished is, let me get my working yarn here out of the way. I'm just using an Aran weight yarn, 4-weight yarn, worsted weight, whatever you call it. But here's how we go about it. So with your right needle behind, you're going to go between your first and second stitch and come to the front and knit that front leg. So I'm pulling, let me get this separated here. You have this front side and then there's a back, because it's a loop that goes over your needle. And generally when we knit that front stitch, right? Well, we're going to knit it, but we're going to knit it from coming through between the 2 stitches like that, grabbing that front loop and pulling it to the back, just like that. And now you're going to wrap your working yarn around the needle and knit that stitch. Now this gets some cumbersome there, but you're going to pull that through. Now we've knitted the second stitch. Now we want to knit the front stitch just as if you would regularly knit it. So we're knitting these 2 stitches without taking them off the needle individually. Okay, so now both of those first 2 stitches have been knitted. One pulled through the back and one knitted from the front as always. Go ahead and slide them to off your left needle. Now you're just going to simply knit your next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And purl the next 2. So bring your yarn to the front and purl 1 and 2. That is your 7 stitch, your multiple of 7. That's 7 of them right there. So we're going to repeat this process all the way across. Again, we're going to go between those first 2 stitches with our needle. Just be careful you don't pop that first stitch off. Wrap your needle around the front leg of that second stitch. Pull it to the back. Yarn around your needle and pull it through so you can knit it. Here we go. Let's pop through. And now separate them 2 stitches again so you can tell which one's which. And knit that first stitch as you normally would knit. And slide those 2 stitches off. Now knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Purl 2. 1 and 2. I'm going to do that repeat one more time with you, and then I will let you complete your row by yourself on your own. If you need to rewind and watch again, by all means, feel free to do so. Okay, so we're at our first 2 stitches of our next 7 stitches. You're going to come from the back side with your right needle, between them stitches, pull that front leg to the back, and knit it. Just like that. Separate the first and second stitch and knit that first stitch as normal. Slide those 2 stitches off. Knit the next 3, 1, 2, and 3, and purl the next 2. Okay, continue on. You can kind of see already the start where it's slanted here. Continue on the rest of your row, and I will meet back up with you to do row 2. Okay, now rows 2, 4, 6, and 8 are all exactly the same, and they are as followed. Knit the first 2, 1 and 2, and purl the next 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's your 7 stitch repeat. We'll do that one more time. Knit 1 and 2, purl 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So rows 2, 4, 6, and 8, you do that same exact repeat. When I get to the end of row 2, I will meet up with you for row 3. Okay, let's begin row 3. Row 3 starts with a knit 1, now we're going to do that same cross 2 to the left, as we did on row 1. Bring your right needle from behind between the next 2 stitches, grabbing hold of the front leg on your second stitch and drawing it to the back. Now you're going to knit that stitch, separate them 2 stitches out, and knit that first stitch as normal. And slide those 2 stitches off. Knit 2, 1, 2, and purl 2. Okay, that was your 7-stitch repeat. We will repeat that again. Knit 1. Now we're going to do a 2 cross to the left. So between the next 2 stitches, insert your needle from behind, grabbing the front leg of the second stitch, drawing it to the back, and knitting it. And now knit that second, well, knit the first stitch. Pull both of them stitches off. Knit 2 and purl 2. Okay, we'll do that one more time together. Knit 1. Now knit, you're going to cross 2 to the left these next 2 stitches, so bring your needle from behind between the 2 stitches, pulling the front leg of the second stitch to the back. Now knit it, and now knit that first stitch as normal, sliding both of them stitches from your left needle to your right. Knit 2, 1 and 2, and purl 2. 1 and 2. Go ahead and complete your row, and I'm going to meet back up with you on row 5. Remember, rows 2, 4, 6, and 8 are all exactly the same. So if you need to, you can reverse the video back to row 2. Okay, let's begin row 5. Row 5 is knit 2. So 1 and 2. Now we're going to cross 2 to the left. So insert your needle from behind between your next 2 stitches, grabbing the front leg of the second stitch, drawing it to the back, and knitting it. And then separating them 2 stitches and knit the first stitch as you normally would. Now slide those 2 stitches from left to right needle, knit 1 and purl 2. This is your 7-stitch repeat. Let's do that again. Knit 2, 1 and 2, cross 2 to the left, inserting that needle from behind, grabbing that front leg of the second stitch and knitting it. Separate them 2 stitches, knit the second stitch as normal, and sliding those 2 stitches now off your left needle and onto your right. knit 1, and purl 2. We'll do that one more time together, and then you can finish off your row by yourself. So knit 2, 1 and 2, cross 2 to the left, so bring that needle from behind between the next 2 stitches, grabbing the front leg of the second stitch, drawing it to the back, and now knitting it. Just be careful you don't pull them stitches off. Oops. Have to do that again. Okay. And that's the case sometimes. Sometimes you just got to fiddle with it until it pops through. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. Separate them 2 stitches, knit the first stitch as normal, and slide them off your left needle. Now knit 1 and purl the next 2. Okay? And as you can hopefully see, we are starting to get a slant in those stitches. There we go. Okay, continue that pattern across the rest of your stitches until you have reached the end. Remember, row 6 is the same as row 2. I'm going to meet back up with you for row 7. Okay, let's begin row 7. And this is the final one that we'll do together. Row 8 you will do on your own because it is the same as row 2. Row 7 begins with a knit 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now cross 2 to the left. So inserting your needle from behind, grabbing the front leg of the second stitch and knitting it. Now knit that first stitch as you normally would and slide them 2 off. And now you just purl 2. And that is your 7-stitch repeat. Okay, we'll do this a couple more times. Knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Cross 2 to the left, so bringing your right needle to the back and through between the next 2 stitches, grabbing the front leg of the second stitch and drawing it to the back. Now knit it, separate them stitches, knit the first stitch as you normally would, pull them off, and purl 2. 1 and 2. Let's do that again. Knit 1, 2, and 3. Cross 2 to the left. Bring that needle from behind between them 2 stitches. Pull that front leg to the back of your second stitch and now knit it. See, I have problems just like everybody else. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a little trick that I figured out when I was doing this before. I grabbed a cable needle and I pulled that first stitch off and set it out of the way. Then I knitted the second stitch, and don't pull it off. I just pulled my loop through, and I rocked my right needle around and placed it back behind my left needle. Then I slid that stitch from my cable needle back onto my left needle and knitted that front stitch just as you normally would. I did exactly the same thing as I was showing you originally, except I used a cable needle and pulled the first stitch off. I'll do that one more time so that way you can see what I did one more time. So purl these last 2 stitches of our 7 stitches there. Okay, let's go ahead and do that one more time together. Knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to cross 2 to the left, and I'm going to use the cable hook again. Slide that first cable or that first loop off onto your cable hook and out of the way. Knit the second one, just do not finish it. Don't pull it off the needle. Take your right needle and turn it and rock it around back behind your left needle. Now take your stitch that you saved over here on your cable hook and put it back on your left needle. Now it's ready to use again. And now you can knit it as you normally would. Pull those off and purl the next 2. Since I'm right here at my last one, I will go ahead and do my last section of 7. Knit 3, 1, 2, 3, cross 2 to the left. We'll do it like I originally did, inserting that needle from behind, knitting that front loop on the back side here, and now knit that first stitch as you normally would, and slide them off and purl the last 2 stitches. Okay, and then you just simply turn your work over and work row 8 the same as you did rows 2, 4, and 6, which was knit 2, purl 5. So knit those first 2 and purl the next 5, and that's your repeat across, just as a little refresher there. And 5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish row 8, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that is the broken rib stitch pattern. It looks really, really neat. When you stretch it out, it's kind of hard to see it in camera, but when it's all squished up, you can see the lines of how the stitches were transferred across the ribs. So I hope you were able to see this nicely. That's not too bad there. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and let me know down in the comment section if you decide to use this in a pattern. I'd love to see your work. I think this is a really fun stitch pattern, and could be used in so many different techniques. I was thinking that it would be fun as like a collar on a shirt, or cuffs on a sweatshirt down around your arm. I zoom out just a little bit here. Like a cuff around your arm at the bottom of the sleeve. Think it would look really neat like that. Kind of goes with my shirt. Okay. Again, thank you for watching, and as always, be blessed and be a blessing, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.